The Intruder in the Attic. My new house was nestled in a quiet suburban neighborhood, a charming two-story with white picket fencing and a lush garden. It was the perfect place for a fresh start after a turbulent few years. I felt safe within these walls, but little did I know that my newfound sanctuary would soon become the stage for a chilling ordeal. The first inkling that something was amiss came one night when I was alone, reading a book in my cozy living room. The house was bathed in a soft amber glow from the dimmed lights. As I turned the page, a faint noise pierced the silence, an unsettling soft rustling coming from above, as if something were scuttling in the attic. I dismissed it at first, attributing the sound to the house settling or a mouse seeking shelter from the cold. However, the rustling continued night after night, growing louder and more persistent with each passing hour. Sleep became elusive as I lay in bed, my ears attuned to the eerie noise emanating from the upper reaches of my home. Finally, curiosity and unease got the better of me. Armed with a flashlight and nerves of steel, I ventured to the attic, the narrow wooden stairs creaking ominously beneath my weight. The rustling ceased abruptly as I reached the top, shrouding the attic in an eerie silence. I scanned the dimly lit room with trepidation. Dust-covered boxes and forgotten relics filled the attic, concealing whatever lay within. As my flashlight beam cut through the shadows, it revealed an inconceivable sight. A man, disheveled and wild-eyed, crouched amidst the attic's clutter. Our eyes locked, and his pupils dilated with fear, shock, and desperation. Without warning, he lunged toward me, propelled by a surge of adrenaline. I stumbled backward, barely managing to maintain my balance as he darted past me and sprinted down the attic stairs, his feet thudding heavily on the old wooden steps. The realization of what had transpired sent shivers down my spine. I locked the attic door and, with trembling hands, called the police. They arrived swiftly, their presence offering a sliver of comfort in the midst of my distress. The officers searched the house thoroughly, but the intruder had vanished into the night, leaving no trace behind. It was during their investigation that they made a chilling discovery: a makeshift nest of blankets and stolen food hidden in the darkest corner of the attic. It became apparent that this man had not merely trespassed, he had been living within the confines of my home, right above my head, for an undetermined amount of time. His presence was a haunting reminder of the thin line between safety and vulnerability, and the thought of a stranger secretly inhabiting my attic continues to send shivers down my spine. The incident served as a harsh lesson, a stark reminder that sometimes danger lurks where you least expect it. My home, once a haven, had been invaded, forever tainted by the memory of that nightmarish encounter, leaving me with a chilling awareness of the hidden perils that can lurk within the walls of even the most ordinary-looking houses. Obsession unleashed. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers toward my front door. I locked it securely, as I did every evening, and settled into the comforting embrace of my cozy living room. Yet, despite the tranquility of my suburban home, an unsettling unease had taken root within me. It had been months since I'd ended my tumultuous relationship with Alex, my ex-boyfriend. He had never taken the breakup well, and his possessiveness had escalated into something far more sinister. I had changed the locks, blocked his number, and even moved to a new town in the hopes of escaping his shadow. But shadows have a way of clinging, especially when they're cast by a relentless predator. That night, as I nestled into my armchair and began to lose myself in a book, my phone buzzed with an incoming message. My heart quickened as I saw the sender's name, Alex. Panic surged through me. I thought I had severed all ties with him. The message was simple yet chilling. "I miss you, darling, can't stay away any longer." My hands trembled as I fumbled to block his number once again, but the damage was done. Fear gnawed at my senses, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was closer than I dared to imagine. As the minutes turned into hours, I sat alone in my dimly lit living room, my anxiety growing with every passing moment. The room felt oppressive, like it was closing in on me. I could hear the faint creaking of the floorboards above, the distant hum of the refrigerator, and the eerie silence of the outside world. And then, it happened. A soft, scraping sound came from the kitchen, like a chair being dragged across the tiled floor. My heart pounded in my chest as I strained to listen. It couldn't be my imagination, I was sure of it. Someone was in my house. With trembling hands, I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, whispering my address to the operator. I held my breath, trying to stifle the panic that threatened to overwhelm me. Every sound, every creak of the old house felt like a deafening alarm. The minutes dragged on like hours as I waited for the police to arrive. I was trapped in my living room, unable to escape or confront the intruder. I wished I had something, anything, to defend myself with. Then, just as I was beginning to lose hope, I heard it. A voice, soft and chilling, coming from the hallway just beyond my line of sight. It was Alex, his voice dripping with obsession and malice. "You can't escape me, darling. You belong to me." I felt a surge of terror unlike anything I had ever experienced. He was in my home just a few feet away, separated only by a thin wall. The police couldn't arrive soon enough. As I huddled in my darkened living room, the voice drew closer, each word filled with a sickening promise. The minutes felt like an eternity, and I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I had to do something, anything, to protect myself. Summoning every ounce of courage I had left, I crept toward the hallway, my phone clutched tightly in my hand. The voice grew louder, more deranged, as if Alex had lost all sense of reality. And then, in a chilling confrontation that would haunt me forever, I turned the corner into the dimly lit hallway, my phone illuminating his face. There he stood, a wild and menacing figure, his eyes filled with a madness I could not comprehend. As I screamed and fled, my phone dropped to the floor, its light extinguished. But the image of his face, contorted by obsession and rage, was seared into my memory. The police arrived just in time to apprehend him, but the terror he had unleashed that night would never truly leave me. I had faced the embodiment of my worst fears, and in that chilling confrontation, I had come to understand the true depth of his obsession, a darkness from which there could be no escape. Midnight delivery. The night was inky black, a shroud of darkness that enveloped my quiet suburban neighborhood. I had just settled in for a cozy evening at home, ready to indulge in a night of movies and comfort food. Ordering from Uber Eats had become a weekend ritual, a guilty pleasure that added a dash of excitement to my otherwise uneventful life. I placed an order for my favorite comfort meal and settled into my living room, the soft glow of the TV casting a warm ambiance. Time passed, and my anticipation grew as I awaited the arrival of my food. But as the minutes turned into hours, I couldn't shake the growing unease that something was amiss. My phone buzzed, signaling the arrival of a message. It was the Uber Eats notification, confirming that my food had been delivered. I frowned, confused, as I had heard no knock on the door or doorbell ring. I checked the app, and it stated that the delivery had been left at my front door. Puzzled, I ventured to the front door and opened it, expecting to find a bag of delicious food waiting for me. But to my surprise, there was nothing there. No bag, no food, just an empty doorstep shrouded in darkness. I stepped out onto the porch, peering into the dimly lit street, but there was no sign of the delivery driver. The air was cold and still, and an unsettling feeling of dread washed over me. I couldn't understand what had happened to my order or the driver. Just as I was about to return inside, I heard it. A faint, muffled whisper, like a voice carried on the wind. It was coming from the direction of my backyard. My heart pounded in my chest as I cautiously made my way to the backyard, my senses on high alert. The whisper grew louder, more distinct, and I realized it was a woman's voice, a voice that sounded desperate, panicked. I followed the sound, my flashlight cutting through the darkness, and soon I came upon a horrifying sight. There, in the corner of my backyard, was the Uber Eats delivery driver. She was huddled on the ground, trembling and disheveled. Her eyes were wide with fear as she whispered frantically, "He's still here. He's still here." I felt a surge of dread as I asked her what had happened. She explained that she had arrived with my food only to be ambushed by a man who had forced her to hand it over and then dragged her into the backyard. She had managed to escape, but was now terrified that the man was still lurking nearby. My heart raced as I realized the danger we were in. I called the police and they assured us that they were on their way. But as we waited, the atmosphere grew more oppressive. The night seemed darker and the shadows in the backyard seemed to elongate, as if they were reaching out for us. And then, the lights in my backyard flickered and went out. The darkness closed in around us, and the only sound was the pounding of my heart. Panic washed over me, and I fumbled for my phone, desperately trying to turn on the flashlight. As I illuminated the area, I saw movement in the shadows just at the edge of the light. My breath caught in my throat as I realized that the man who had ambushed the delivery driver was still here, lurking in the darkness. The driver and I huddled together, our hearts pounding in terror as we waited for the police to arrive. The minutes felt like an eternity, and every rustle in the bushes, every whisper of the wind sent shivers down our spines. Finally, the police arrived, their flashing lights cutting through the darkness. They searched the area but found no sign of the intruder. The delivery driver was shaken but unharmed, and I couldn't help but feel grateful that she had managed to escape. As the police took our statements, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me. The darkness outside my window seemed more menacing than ever, a reminder that even in the safety of my own home, I was never truly alone. The chilling encounter had left a mark that would haunt my nights for a long time to come.